and also my dear students. So what I'll do is that in my brief introduction, I'll introduce to you three things. The Earth Day. Why the Earth Day? Secondly, our e-magazine, which is supposed to be released today, about that magazine. And thirdly, I will speak about this future of the theme of that, future of the planet Earth. Now this Earth Day, it was started celebrating the Americans started celebrating the Earth Day first on 22nd of April 1970. Why? Because a year before in 69, towards the end, there was a massive oil spill in the western coast of America, California, Santa Barbara, where because of the oil spill, large number of aquatic animals, the birds, then lions, sea lions, the dolphins, they died. And there was a massive protest in USA. The students took the lead. They're already leading the movement against the Vietnam War. The professors joined, rank and file citizens joined, and on this 22nd of April, about 22 million Americans, they joined in the protest movement throughout America, in all universities, colleges, schools, auditoriums, and parks on the streets. And that is considered as the largest movement in America till date. Those days, 22 million means about 10% of the Americans, they joined in the protest movement. So throughout the 70s and the 80s, they started celebrating this day. And then the Americans thought that they set up an organization called Earth.org when the internet came. And they established networking with the environment leaders, environmental movements throughout the world, about 114 countries. And from 1990, it became an international movement, where about 1 billion people every year, they participate in the movement. So in recognition of this movement, the United Nations General Assembly in 2009, 22nd April, they passed a resolution and they said this day shall be celebrated throughout the world as the International Mother Earth Day. So Earth Day, which was an American movement, became a global movement, and now it became an International Mother Earth Day. Why Mother Earth? Because Earth, takes care of its species, of its creatures, all life. Takes care, like the mother takes care of the children. Earth provides us free air. Earth provides us free water, free energy, free food. And that's why Earth plays the role of a mother. And we find that in cultures all over the world, in India, we consider Earth as Prithvi, Dharitri, Vasudha, mother. We find that in Greece also, they call it terra mater. Terra means earth. Matter means ma in Greek languages. We find in Egyptians also, the Chinese also, in Africa and Latin America, tribal world also, we find they have worshipped Earth as mother goddess. And that's why we have named our e-magazine as Mother Earth. So we have, and today is the first anniversary of that magazine also, because last year we started that magazine. So we have 4 issues in the magazine. The first issue we released on 22nd April. Today we are 29th, because of the seminar we had to postpone it by a week. So the first issue on 22nd April on the Mother Earth Day, International Mother Earth Day. Second issue on 5th of June on the World Environment Day. That issue will be released. Third issue on 13th October, that is the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. And the final issue that we'll release on the 14th of January, the birthday of Swami Vivekananda. So our theme is, on the World Environment Day, the theme of the magazine is the theme of the World Environment Day. And this year, the theme of the World Environment Day is Planet versus Plastics. So next 5th June we'll be releasing it. Theme of the third issue is on International Risk Reduction Day, and we'll be working on that. And this first and the last issue is open. This year we have considered future of the planet as our theme. And on the last issue, we generally will be working on the ethical issues on environment, issues of values, which is very important. So that is the thing we'll be seeing on the last issue. Okay, so this is our plan of things. So I have introduced to you Earth Day, introduced to you our magazine, and now I will briefly speak about the planet Earth. Now the planet Earth, how old is it? How old is our Earth? It is about 4.5 billion years. 1 billion years means 1,000 years, 1,000 crore. 1,000 crore. That means our Earth is about 4,500 crore years old. And it came from the solar nebula because of explosions. It was like a hot, gas. And over the years, it started cooling down. It became solid. So the liquid came. And the first life came. When? About 3,700 crore years ago. Microbial mats. These were the first signs of life. And the whole world was spread over these microbial mats, and they started photosynthesis. And because of that, there was oxygen buildup in the atmosphere. And because of that oxygen buildup, species started growing. Different types of species, plants, animals, and microorganisms also. But the species did not survive long. Ecobiologists and the ecogeologists, they say that there are 5 extinctions of species in the last so many years. And why this extinction? Because the earth started evolving, nature started evolving. There were continental drifts where the continents clashed. There are volcanoes. There were acidification of the ocean. There was, acidic rains. Because of that, and sometime earth started cooling down. Entire earth was frozen. Again, it started warming up. So because of these geological, natural phenomena, the species, they were extinct for 5 times. They were created, they stabilized, they destroyed. There is Sisti, there is Thriti, there is the Proloy. And the cycle continued until human beings were born. And when was human beings? Homo sapiens, or forefathers. We evolved about 1 lakh years ago. 1 lakh years ago. Where? In the jungles of East Africa, Kenya and Ethiopia. I visited the Kenyan National Museum in Nairobi, where they kept the skeletons, which was about 1 lakh years old, human skeletons. Now from Kenya and Ethiopia, this went over to Middle East, they went over to Europe and all over the world. They were nomads. They were hunters and gatherers. They were gathering fruits, roots, they're hunting animals, they're surviving like this. Until they started learning domesticated animals. Now what made the Homo sapiens, the human beings, different from other animals are 2 things. Human beings have a large brain. So we have a greater cognitive power. We learn things quickly. We can memorize things. We can create things. We can discover things. We can build up our civilizations. And also we have our values. We have a strong value system in our brain because of this brain. So that's humans' civilization evolved. So initially we started learning domesticate animals. We domesticated animals, and animals became the first private property. And with that grown inequality. People started dominating over others. And when private property came, the question of the succession of the property, if I die, who will be owning the property? And therefore the institution of marriage came. And because of this marriage institution, the women were also subordinated to the men. So the nature gave us intelligence, nature gave us a social nature, but we created inequality, we created discrimination. So since then, this inequality and discrimination is continuing. Okay? We started agricultural civilization, and we find that on the river valleys, some initial civilizations grew up. First in India, Indus Valley. Then in China, Yangtze River, Yellow River. Then in Tigris and Euphrates, in Mesopotamia, Babylon. In Egypt on the Nile River. And in Greece also civilization grew. And so our agricultural civilizations continued for about 4,000 years, and there was no clash with the nature. We learned to live with the nature. We learned to worship the nature. So there was no problem. The problem started in 1736 when a British gentleman named James Watt, he invented the steam engine. Then we started extracting resources from the nature. Initially all forests, then mines, coals, etc. Burning those to create energy and use energy to manufacture things. So that is a revolution we know as the Industrial Revolution. In England first, then it spread to Europe, to America. And then Industrial Revolution started colonizing the whole world to get resources from this world to sell their finished products. That's why they colonized the world. The world became independent, but the domination of the West still continues because their domination of finance and technology is still continuing. So the Industrial Revolution started in England, but really it started middle 19th century, you can say 1850. It grew up with a big force. And so man became very arrogant when we started conquering nature. Now, what is happening because of this conquering nature? So we are dangerously close to destroying our nature. The scientists all over, started with the Swedish Resilience Center in Stockholm. The scientist called, Cohen Armstrong. He evolved the theory of the planetary boundaries. He said our planet Earth has 9 boundaries. And if you can operate very safely if you are within the limits of the boundaries. But if you cross the Lakshman Rekha, then we have a danger. Now the scientists are saying that there are 9 Lakshman Rekhas, 9 planetary boundaries, and we have already crossed 6. Now what are those boundaries? Number 1. One is the carbon cycle. And that boundary is 350 ppm, particles per million molecules. So the entire atmosphere, there are molecules. So see if the carbon molecules crosses 350 out of 1 million, then we are crossing the Lakshman Rekha. So we have already crossed it. We are now somewhere near 420. And because of that, there is a global warming, there is a temperature rise. And average surface temperature of the Earth has increased by about 1.3 degrees centigrade compared to the Industrial Revolution, 1880. And the scientists are saying that if it is crossing 1.5 degree, then we are close to limits of adapting with the nature. We are very close, and scientists are saying the way we are going, it is now only 6 years. See, in New York Times Square, there is a huge clock, and the clock is ticking in reverse gear, showing how close we are to this 1.5 degrees centigrade. We are trying our very best, Paris Agreement, everything, but nothing, carbon emission is increasing. The emission has stopped in the West, it is increasing in the East. Now India is the 3rd highest emitter of carbon in the world, after China and USA. Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, all emerging countries are doing it. So because of the temperature, the glaciers of the world are melting on the mountains, on the poles. And because of the melting glaciers, sea level is rising. For a million years, sea level was constant, but now it's rising. And the scientists are forecasting that if it rises at the same ratio, then what will happen? The coastal areas, the small islands, the deltas, Sundarbans, they'll all be submerged. They'll all be submerged. Many coastal cities will be submerged. And because of that changing climate, the weather pattern is also changing. Rainfall is changing. And we have the natural disasters. Frequencies and intensities are increasing, like anything. So that is first thing. The second boundary that we are crossing is the nitrogen and the potassium cycle. That the cycle has also its limit. Nitrogen cycle is 25 Tg. Now you have almost 50 Tg. Potassium cycle limit is about 11. Now we are almost 25. So because of the use of these chemical fertilizers, agriculture, farming, etc., methane and nitrogen emissions in the atmosphere. Now the third thing is that the freshwater use. Scientists say that if we cost 4 trillion cubic meter of fresh water, terrestrial water, surface water, also subsurface water, and we are somewhere like 5 trillion cubic meters of water that we are using. We have crossed that limit. The fourth limit is the extinction of the species. Species extinct in a natural way by 10 species for every million species per year. 10 species per million every year. If it extincts, then fine. But now our extinction rate is about 100 species per million. 10 times more, we have crossed that limit. So how many have said? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 things are still, we have not crossed this. That is ocean acidification, ozone layer depletion. In fact, in ozone layer, there is some improvement. And also the aerosol in the atmosphere. These things have not been, we have not, but 6 boundaries. Another is the land use. 15% of the non-ice surface land, that should be the cropland. That is the boundary. That means the total surface land of the area minus this ice land, 15% of that should be cropland. Rest should be forest. So we have crossed that limit long back. Now we are somewhere like 40% of the area, earth, we are using for cultivation. Why? Because population is increasing. Before Industrial Revolution, we are less than 1 billion population. Now we are 8 billion population. We are going to be 10 billion population by 2058. Then it will stabilize. So we have crossed the 6 boundaries of the planet. The planet is in danger. And because of that, what has started the age, we call it Holocene. That means the extinction of the species. The species are getting extended. 85% of the wild mammals in the world, they have vanished totally. The human beings and their domesticated animals, they comprise about 96% of the mammals of the earth. Aquatic animals, avian species, and etc., these are being extinct. So this is called as the 6th extinction we are passing through. Scientists are saying we are passing through the 6th extinction. And that extinction is caused not by nature, but by the human beings. So what nature could not do for millions of years, we are doing it in just 150, 200 years after the Industrial Revolution. So now the geologists are saying a new geological epoch has started. That is called Anthropocene. Anthropocene. I teach in my class Anthropocene. The new geological epoch. And that epoch has been recognized by the International Commission on Stratigraphy after a long deliberation. And they have recognized this new epoch, and they are saying 1950 is the starting point. 1950 is starting point in the new epoch. In this epoch, nature is not ruling the world, planet. In this epoch, the human beings are ruling over the planet. The epoch of the Anthropocene, which has been recognized in the geological calendar. So we are now human beings on the verge of almost ruining the planet. Then what is the future? So as a future, and I'm an optimist, I think that human beings have conquered nature. Yes, we have become arrogant, but at the same time, we are conscious. Globally, there is an explosion of knowledge. So we know that what we are doing. And that's why there is a new consciousness emerging. Billions of people are joining on Mother Day. Everywhere people are demanding we have to protect our earth. And that is the beginning. That is the beginning. Because the human mind has a creativity. We have created the powers of science, and I'm sure the power of science will find an alternative for feeding the billions. Power of science will find an alternative for protecting our nation, for climate. The solar energy we are now using in a big way. So even if our fossil fuels are exhausted, our coal is going to last 100, 150 years. Oil and gas will be over another 50 to 60 years. But we are now using solar energy in a big way. So I think we should have faith on ourselves, our creativity, just as we have this brain, and the brain also another cell, another part of the brain, which is our values, our ethics. I think the issues of ethics on the environment were never so important as it is today. We are learning from our past, and these ethics, this consciousness, the values, the morality, these are now going to dominate our discourse. We're now thinking of the one health, and we have distinguished speakers. Dr. Sudarshan will be speaking on that. So I'll not take much subject time on that. But I am an optimist always, and I think human being now is ruling the earth, planet. Nature is not ruling. We have conquered the nature. But it is our responsibility to use our ingenuity, our creative ability to develop our technology for facing the challenges, which we will surely. And more important is our value system. The value system that is there always. We have to think about the science of our values, science of our religion, and to make the values, ingrain them, imbibe them to the youth, to the vast masses of the people. And by this way, by our value system only, we will be able to save our planet Earth. So this is a brief introductory remark. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your excellent talk and focusing light on future of our planet. Now, I would request our Dean, Professor Taposh Dasgupta, to speak on future and saving the planet.
Reverend Swami Atmapriyanandaji, Chancellor, Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda Education and Research Institute, and also the founder of this university. Reverend Swami Shastrogyanandaji, Secretary, Ramakrishna Mission, Narendrapur, and also administrative head of our campus. Prakash Maharaj, our assistant administrative head. Dr. Dhar Chakraborty, HOD, EDM, Environment and Disaster Management. Dr. Sudarshan, the Padmashri awardee here. We are fortunate enough. Then the faculty members, Dr. N.C. Shahu, the coordinator of Shosya Shamala Krishi Vigyan Kondo, our distinguished faculty members here, students and scholars. So we have assembled here to observe the Earth Day celebration, which was initiated by the US Senator Gaylord Nelson and his student Dennis Hayes, Harvard University student, as early as 1970. And because of the cause, we already know from the presentation of Dr. Dhar Chakraborty why that was observed at the time. And also 20 million people across the world, they have gathered in the movement. So the day actually encourages humans to make small changes in your daily life, supporting environmental causes and contributing to a more sustainable future, conserving water, recycling as well as advocating for larger systemic changes that can help mitigate the impact of climate change and protect the environment for future generation. So my presentation will be mostly related to the agriculture and to some extent the environment as well, as I basically belong to the School of Agriculture and Rural Development, more to the and how we see the duties to be performed from the point of view of the agriculture to save the planet. So, are there activities, opportunity for individuals, organizations and government around the world to come together and discuss the urgent need to address global environmental crises which we are facing, such as climate change, air and water pollution, deforestation and loss of biodiversity. We already know how the biodiversity is being affected by the global change, and Dr. Chakravarti has given us a statistics how much we are losing. So that is, Earth Day is celebrated in varieties of ways, like the tree planting, community cleanup, educational events or rallies. There are many ways to participate in Earth Day, including planting trees, reducing plastic consumption. So this year the April 22 is observed as the Earth Day, and these are the theme of this year is the plastic. That means how to reduce the plastic use, so that 60% of the plastic is reduced by the 2040. There are April 22 was chosen as the Earth Day because it marks the beginning of the spring in northern hemisphere and the end of autumn in southern hemisphere. The Nelson and Hayes wanted a day that would maximize participation on the college campus, where the movement began. April 22 fell between spring break and final examination, making it a convenient time for students to organize events and rallies. And actually the Earth Day is organized by the Earth Day Organization, a global organization that works to promote sustainable living and environmental conservation. And World Environment Day, on the other hand, is celebrated annually on June 5, was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 1970. So this is the difference between the Earth Day and the World Environment Day. And while Earth Day, Environment Day share a common goal, there are two separate events with different organizers, different approaches to promote environmental awareness action. So if you look into the agriculture, suppose 14,000 years ago agriculture started. We know 1950 the different field crop capacity and how the field crop has been produced. Suppose in wheat about 6.59 million tons in 1950. Now it is 110 million tons. But still our population, we have to feed the population which is ever increasing, and so that means initially 1960 to 1970 there was green revolution, mainly concentrated on two main crops, rice and wheat, and so the increasing wheat production from 1960 to 1980 about 3 times productivity, which was in 1960, 1980 it was 3 times. So it helps us to produce more and more crops, neglecting the nature, neglecting the soil capacity, everything. So to feed the more than 100 million people, we tried hard to produce the crop at a significant phase. But after that, gradually it has become clear that we have destroyed the soil property by growing the crop productivity to almost 3 times. Significant productivity is found in wheat as well as also the rice, but still we are lagging behind. If you compare the productivity of different crops. So you'll be amazed that in rice 3.85 tons per hectare in India, where the world productivity is Australia, it has been found in 9.8 tons per hectare, wheat 2.8 in India, world Netherlands 8.9 tons per hectare. So in different crops, the significant difference is here. That means there are greater scope to increase the productivity of different crops. Even in potato, which we think that it is the highest productivity, but is not. 19.9 tons per hectare in India, and world record is 44.3 tons per hectare in USA. So in tomato 19.3 tons per hectare in India, and China 55.9 tons per hectare. So it already signifies that there is greater scope of increasing the productivity, as the land is limited in nature, because we cannot increase the make the horizontal expansion of the crop. So only way we can go ahead with the higher productivity or higher crop management to increase the productivity. So the when the pollution is become prevalent, so the crop management practice is an important consideration. Suppose we know that there is shortage of water in the underground, water is becoming taking a very acute stage. So we need to develop the crop varieties drought tolerant and also the heat tolerant because of the climatic change and increase of temperature. So it has been found that 1 degree percentage increase in temperature results in 4 to 5 million tons wheat productivity loss, and even with the different practices we can manage that up to 2 to 4 million tons. So that means we have to suppose in 60 or 64 we have a different consideration in agriculture, and now in 2024 we have to think in a different way how to maintain the ecological balance and climate smart agriculture, and without impairing the soil productivity we can raise because we need to increase the productivity and the production. There is no other alternative way that we can do, but we have to increase the crop production, maintaining all the factors which was not previously there. Suppose in 14,000 years ago when agriculture was practiced, there is not such barrier. Now the barrier is you have to maintain the environment, you have to increase the, you must be very sure about the different resources of nature is not lost, and we cannot face challenges because of the nature different, suppose water and air is not polluted. So maintaining all these things we have to increase the productivity. There is no other way. So the challenge is more and more for the agriculture. We have to go on increasing productivity, at the same time making sure that the earth is not polluted because of the agricultural cultivation. One of the thing is though the population is growing in a rapidly year after year, so there is some important projection from 2050 maybe there is decrease in population rate. So it is predicted that suppose after 2050 we have a population of around 1 billion in India. So that is, so everything is changing. It is not static. Whatever we are saying, that is not static. With consideration of all the surrounding factors, we have to think, and also the agricultural crop production. So with these few remarks, I congratulate EDM for organizing this National Day, National Seminar, and I hope it will be a great success. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking talk on agricultural production and global food demand. Next, I would request revered Swami Shastragyanandaji Maharaj to speak on the stage.
Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaaya. I convey my pranams to revered Srimad Swami Atma Priyanandaji Maharaj. My namaskar and regards to revered Swami Shivapurnanandaji Maharaj, Dr. P.G. Dhar Chakrabarti, Dr. Tapos Dasgupta, Dr. Sudarshan, and all other dignitaries present on the dais, and also the faculty members, students, and other invited guests in this seminar. To us, the earth is mother. She has created us. She nurtures. She takes all pains to provide the pleasure to her children. The entire nature that has been created by her is for the purpose of making the entire living of ours a soothing one, a peaceful one. The incredible biodiversity and the beautiful nature in the form of mountains, rivers, forests, and various natural resources have shaped the human civilization right from the time immemorial. Thus, the Bhusuktam, an ancient hymn of our Vedic literature, depicts this Mother Earth. Samudravati Savitri Hano Devi Maihangi Mahodharani Maho Adhyatishtha Shringe Shringe Yagge Yagge Vibhishini. You are the great Mother Earth who bears everything without a grudge or murmur. Established on a firm footing on his side in standing posture and on the horn of the great boar, on the top of every creation and fearlessly in every sacrifice, thus assuring the prapannas, the sharanagatas, complete protection from morbid and mundane fears and never threatening the devotees like a tyrant or a dictator. However, the more the civilization has taken its giant strides to newer heights of advancements, right from the Industrial Revolution, the more perilous threats have challenged the existence of our Mother Earth. এক্ষুনি আত্মপ্রিয়ানন্দজি মহারাজ বলছিলেন যে তুমি রবীন্দ্রনাথের নিয়ে কিছু বলতে পারো। রিয়েলি আই রিমেম্বার একটা খুব এখানে সবাই মোটামুটি বাংলা বুঝতে পারেন ডক্টর সুদর্শন। সো ইউ সি দেয়ার ইজ এ ওয়ান্ডারফুল ড্রামা রিটেন বাই রবীন্দ্রনাথ ট্যাগর নেম মুক্তধারা। নাটকটার নাম হচ্ছে মুক্তধারা। এই নাটকটা সত্যিকারের অর্থে খুব বেশি স্টেজড হয়নি, মানে একেবারে স্টেজে অভিনয় হয়নি। রবীন্দ্রনাথ থাকার সময় উনি একবার করেছিলেন, পরবর্তীকালে 1960s শেষের দিকে আর একবার এটা অভিনয়ের চেষ্টা হয়েছিল। রিসেন্ট টাইমে অবশ্য দু একটি গ্রুপ থিয়েটার দে হ্যাভ ট্রাইড টু স্টেজ ইট। Really tough to stage this drama. However, we also tried to some extent when I was in Vidya Mandir College. এই যে নাটকটা, এই নাটকটার মেইন থিম হচ্ছে এক্সপ্লয়টেশন অব ল্যান্ড অ্যান্ড ওয়াটার, ল্যান্ড রিসোর্স অ্যান্ড ওয়াটার রিসোর্স। দুটো গ্রুপ, দুটো কান্ট্রি ধরা যাক। The name of one country is Uttarkut, another country is Shivatarai. They are fighting amongst themselves only to exploit this nature and the land resources available both of them. এখন মজাটা হলো যেটা, যে এটার এগেনস্টে একজন প্রোটেস্ট করেছিলেন, only one person who protested against it. খুব সুন্দর রবীন্দ্রনাথ যেটা বলতে চেয়েছেন এই ড্রামাটাতে, এই যে মানুষটি who protested against all these exploitations, who gave the birth to this particular person? রবীন্দ্রনাথ বলছেন কেউ জানতো না,
who is his mother, who is his father. But everyone knows that that very particular person was there in a child form in the just at the bank of a river under a mountain. একটা পাহাড়ের নিচে একটা ঝর্ণা থেকে নদী বয়ে যাচ্ছে, তার তলায় চাইল্ড হিসেবে তিনি পড়েছিলেন, অ্যান্ড দেন হি ওয়াজ নার্চার্ড। সেই থেকে মানে এই ধারণাটা তৈরি করা হয়েছিল যে এই যে মানুষটি, হি ইজ নাথিং বাট দি চাইল্ড অব দ্য নেচার। হি ট্রাইড টু protest against all these exploitations, but he failed to do that. এবং শেষ পর্যন্ত যেটা ঘটল সেটা হচ্ছে এই যে আলটিমেটলি he had to die because everyone tried to exploit. যদিও সবাই তাকে ভালোবাসতো, কিন্তু কেউ তার কথা শুনল না, এবং সে শেষ পর্যন্ত মারা গেল এই এক্সপ্লয়টেশনের এগেনস্টে দাঁড়াতে গিয়ে। At that point of time, after his death, everyone understood what mistake they have already committed. এখানে নাটকটা শেষ হয়ে যাচ্ছে। দিস ইজ দ্য মেসেজ। যা আমরা আজও যখন পৃথিবীর দিকে তাকাই, ল্যান্ড এবং ওয়াটার নিয়ে আমাদের ইনফাইটিং ইটস গোয়িং অন, and this particular character represents how wonderfully and how effectively we can protest against all this, although we may have to sacrifice ourselves. As a student of literature, when we look at the nature, we adore it as the highest form of beauty. From the perspective of spirituality, we worship the nature, the earth, as manifestation of the ultimate reality. T.S. Eliot, I think you have heard his name. He is one of the most prominent writer in the first half of 20th century, English writer. T.S. Eliot, in one of his most famous writings, The West Land, it was published in the year 1922. It is a poem, long poem of 433 lines. And the poem ends with the famous utterance of the sage of our Upanishad, Datta Dayadhvam Damyata Shanti Shanti Shanti. In English, he is writing that Datta Dayadhvam Damyata Shanti Shanti Shanti. In that poem, he has written a line, a very famous line. He has portrayed the direst picture of the exploitation against the Mother Earth. He cautioned all of us with a thrice pronounced signature line, "The London Bridge is falling down." Here, the London Bridge symbolizes the unique achievement of our science and technology, while its falling down signals the utter failure of ours to protect it. I am not a scientist. I only remember one excellent speech of most revered Srimad Swami Smarananandaji Maharaj, the 16th President Maharajji of our holy order, who being invited in a seminar on environmental pollution, talked extensively on how to overcome the threat of human pollution, which is the source cause of all other pollutions. As a student of literature, we admit that laws are enacted to streamline the need of the time. We know how the science strives to support the attempt of saving the nature. We understand that each technological advancement provides the know-hows to fight against all environmental evils. Poets write to caution us. Saints bless to protect us. But we wait only for ourselves to respond to the call. If we fail, the Westland is just waiting to unveil its cover. Our posterior generations will simply cease to exist. Let us only meditate on what to do and try to translate all the plannings into our actions. Let us go on praying incessantly. Vishnu Patning Mahadeving Madhaving Madhava Priyam Lakshming Priyasaking Deving Namamyachyuta Vallabham. Om Dhanurdharayai Vidmahe Sarvasiddhyai cha Dhimahi Tanno Dhara Prachodayat Om. We worship her by knowing her as one who wields the bow and looks also like a bow, lean in the middle, is adoring the bow. For the purpose we meditate upon the one who blesses us with all success, Sarvasiddhi. May that Dhara, that the goddess earth, prompt us for that meditation. Let us meditate. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your excellent talk. Now I would request Dr. Gautam Chatterjee, Faculty Assistant Professor from AGBT, his topic on Dig Deeper When Small is Bigger, Revealing Secret Lies Beneath the Soil. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, I need PPT presentation. So, Maharaj is a brief talk. So, it's a 5-7 minute talk. So, you can concentrate. Okay. You're not going I don't. Screen. How to move the slide? You could have moved the slide. Slide, you could have shown. So after having such a talk, I remember one of my very famous professor during my PhD days, that your leg, if it's not shake on this podium, then you are in the wrong place. So it's a wonderful talk, mesmerizing talk. So very good morning, most revered ji, Maharaj ji present here, distinguished senior professor, my dear colleague and students. It's been privilege and also it's an honor, and I must acknowledge Professor Dhar Chakraborty sir and the organizer of this seminar for giving me the opportunity to present my talk here. So I designed my talk in a very brief way. So I take the liberty of little bit of literature, philosophy, sorry, pardon me, and little bit of science. Our humble initiatives at RKMVERI, our lab, are doing for last 7 years. I'll give a brief description of what we are doing it. So my topic of my talk is digging deeper when the small is actually bigger, and the secret is in the soil. It's not moving. Ah. Sir? So I start with this famous poem written by Seamus Heaney, was conferred Nobel Prize in 1995 about the digging. And in this poem, he narrated that I often see from my window, my father and grandfather was digging on the soil to cultivate something. And the last part, if you remember, he recalled that I remembered the chilly smell of the potato mold and the squeezing sounds of the wet earth. And I hold a short pen between my fingers. It's my tool. This is what I'll dig with. So, here, before my talk, Professor Dhar Chakraborty sir talked about the knowledge and the science. So, is it fine now? So, here, I'll be talking about the science, that the weapons or tools that we can dig to get out the treasures or the threads which are beneath the soil. Before going into the detail of my talk, Oh. I'll quote a very famous slokas, is one of my favorite slokas also by Adi Shankaracharya. And the narrative of these slokas, from where have you come from? Brother, ponder your truth on this particular point. And when he narrated, is a BC, 5th century BCs, and we scientists came up with the same kind of questions much later, one of the greatest naturalists and scientists, Charles Darwin. And after series of extensive research, scientific research, if you look at this small tree of life, which is missing larger portion of the life, is such a complicated network. And this network is still incomplete. People ask questions and it needs to be addressed. So we are also asking a similar kind of questions. The beauty of this network, if you look at, we have shown you the fish, then amphibians and the mammals. What is the beauty of that? If you remember that lives moved from water to the land, where the terrestrial evolution started. And the last part is the mammal. So what is the beauty of this mammal? Is about this picture, is you remember the Jurassic Park, dinosaurs. Dinosaur is a very important transition phase during the evolution of mammalian evolution. So if you remember your class level biology, we used to call the cold-blooded animal, warm-blooded animal. So cold, here the endothermy denotes or symbolizes the warm-blooded animal. And the dinosaurs are exactly in the middle of these portions, which is called mesoderm. So this is not the point I will be confined with. What is the advantage if a mammal are becoming a warm-blooded animal? It is already been shown that in the mammal systems, unlike bacteria and viruses infection, fungal infection is extremely rare in the mammalian systems. What is the cause or behind that? Because we have a warm temperature in our body, and fungi cannot grow on that particular temperature, and only few fungal isolates can infect our body. But as our Dean sir was talking about, nothing is static, it changes with the time. And this is the COVID time situation and the post-COVID situation. You see that fungal infection has been increasing at an alarming rate. So why it is so? And those are deadly fungus. It can kill your body. So this is the report published by CDC, that is Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States. I'll be focusing on these two parts. They are talking about that the fungi can be emerging threats under this global warming as we experience. So as Hero was talking about, in the last night radio Akashvani, they talked about the West Bengal temperature, that this is not the only one times that we are crossing 41 degree, but the long spell of 40 degree. That is I first time experienced during my life. And the temperature is exceedingly high. So the fungi which cannot tolerate high temperature, they become adopted with this high temperature. And also, other hand, because of the application of rampant use of antifungal pesticide or fungicides, the fungal isolates become resistant. So these are the most two emerging threats that will be awaiting for us to cross our immune system. And this is what I was talking about, and Sarah also mentions in several times that urbanizations and then UV sunlights, high temperature, the microbial community, which are really small, you cannot see under naked eye, they are also changing to adapt in this environment. and there are a lot of fungal infections in the lungs, mostly is a pulmonary disease. And which are the causal organisms? Candida, Aspergillus, these are the real threats. So I'll be presenting my first case study and a very brief observations from my lab. So whenever we looked at these microbes, we often thought that it causes diseases, pathogenicity. So we have studied two parts of our country. One is Sundarban in the West Bengal and in the Jharkhand in some portions. And I sincerely acknowledge Dr. Rupak Goswami to conduct these experiments. They're completely two different diverse agriculture in the type of soils that I'm not going into in great details. So what we observe that there are 10 to the power 2 to 10 to the power range the fungi which can now grow at higher temperature, that is 42, 45 degree temperature. In the laboratory condition, fungi never go beyond 30 degree temperature. This is really alarming. And this is penicillium, which is a noted human pathogen. This is great Aspergillus, which is a huge threat to us. And we have, where from we have found it? It's the Sundarban and Jharkhand agricultural soils. And this probably the first report in India that we will be talking about this thermotolerant fungi from the agricultural soils. There is no hospitals beside that. It's a native virgin place. Why it is so? Why agriculture can be, we are thinking why agricultural soils? Because these fungi really help plant to combat this heat stress. So naturally, plant protect these fungi for their own benefits. So that is the natural selections going on. And that can be real problems can come from the agricultural soils. It's not from the hospital. Then I'll move to another part. Sorry for that is not about the microbes which causes deadly disease. You can utilize in a better way in the agriculture that sir was talking about, our respected Dean sir was talking about. If you look at in India, there is a paradigm shift in the style of agriculture, and people are talking about more eco-friendly, sustainable agriculture and organic farming. This is the 2019 data, and natural farming is not only the 3 states now. Actually, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, things are coming up with a natural farming, nature mimicking agriculture with least anthropogenic interventions. So we are one of the leading center in India who are working on this field. The science behind this natural farming. And we have proved that the microbial consortia, they are actually recommended this natural farming. We have revealed the science. They are really beneficial for the plant and our soil fertility that sir was talking about. Because of the tremendous green revolutions, we make the soil suffer. Now it's time to rejuvenate the soils. It's our own mother. And this is, I'm not going into the science part, so we have used the very sophisticated high throughput technologies. These are called next generation sequencing technologies. And we have found several agro ecosystem services that microbes can provide. This is also a very unpublished result. We are soon will be communicating to these results. So if I summarize this part, so Maharaj was talking about Rabindranath Tagore. So 100 years back, or maybe more than 100 years back, there was a pandemic, is plague pandemic, just like our COVID. And young boy Tagore was confined to his home. Their family moved to another place. After that pandemic was little bit slower released, Tagore visited on the bank of the Ganges and revealed that we are so interconnected. He clearly wrote that the blood the elements in the blood which is flowing in our body is actually really interconnected with our plants, our soils, our air, and everywhere. That is now science is coming about unity of life, one earth, one health, one missions. So if you look at the science part, now science is talking about if you have if you have fragile soil systems in terms of microbes in the plant systems, then we are actually suffering. Our gut microbiome is also very poor. But if you nourish our soil, it will nourish the plant and it will nourish our gut microbes. And microbiome is the center of this One Health. And that is the way we have interconnected. So I have stopped my talk here, and thanks for giving me the opportunity on this galaxies present here. I sincerely acknowledge. It's not moving. It's not moving. Last. RKMVERI for giving me the opportunity to work here, and also my salaries, and funders, ICR for giving me the money, and 3 graduate students who really work hard for my lab. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gautam sir, for excellent talk. Next, I would request Dr. Rupak Goswami to talk on transitioning towards a sustainable and just agri-food system.
My respectful pranam to revered Swami Atmapriyananda Ji Maharaj. My pranam to Swami Shiva Purnananda Ji Maharaj. My respectful pranam to Sudarshan Ji, all my respected professors, colleagues, and very good morning to my dear students. And thankfully there is a dais, so no one can see me trembling behind it. But it's very difficult to hide the trembling voice, so that you will be able to understand. So I have intentionally taken this topic, mostly be presenting an assortment of photographs, not much research reports, because I don't really work in this line, but I will be impressing upon the students who will be the future researchers and working on the field of sustainable food system. Is the problem? Okay, so I start even without the slide. So I'll be talking about the transitions from the conventional agricultural system to sustainable agricultural system, and I have intentionally added a word called just. So this is not only a transition, this is a just transition. Now, historically, the word just transition has come from the energy transition in Europe and in many Western countries. So when we were transitioning from the fossil fuel based industry to the more greener sources of energy, so these coal mines were being closed, and that affected the lives of people. So people started to raise the issue that what will happen to the people's livelihoods who were directly or indirectly associated with these industries. So now for the last 2 or 3 years, fortunately, some people have raised this issue explicitly, that whether that principles of just transition can be employed in the understanding of transitioning agricultural systems. So that's where the context of today's presentation. Oh, sorry. So whenever there is a transition, inevitably there will be some elements of uncertainty. And the very first uncertainty which we often overlook and don't understand is the ontological crisis associated with understanding that what is transition, who are associated with transition, what happens to the people who are associated with transition, and how we can proactively and consciously
preserve the interest of people associated with the transitioning systems. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that I have already mentioned that what are involved in transition, who are involved in transition, what are the possible pathways through which transition can be achieved, and most importantly, who benefits and who actually suffers due to the transition. So that will also apply to the transition in agricultural systems. Next. Okay. So I start with a very recent publication. I have shamelessly actually edited the picture. So that came in maybe the last week, Nature Communications. So the author's main point is that in the near future, if we are transitioning to towards the sustainable development goals in the near term and to the long-term decarbonization target of 2050, so there will be 6 possible pathways through which we can proceed. And one of these pathways, the third one, is the sustainable food system that I will be talking about. Now, this is not only a kind of linear thinking you will be able to understand, because the decision that we make on the transition of sustainable food system, that affects other transitions also. So it's not a kind of linear transition, it's continuously interacting among themselves with some synergies and some trade-offs. Next. No. So this is a simple pathway. I'm sorry, but maybe the fonts are very small, but I can't help. It actually says that when we transition from the conventional system to a more sustainable forms of agricultural system, we actually improve upon the practices. So that may be pest control, maybe soil health management and water resource management. And outside this main scheme, there are people who are by default organic, by default doing sustainable farming. So they join the party with some government support. And in the long term, we achieve that. So we start with a kind of declining productivity, but in the long term, hopefully, and which is also supported by empirical evidence, we achieve the higher level of productivity. Next. This is a seminal framework that is given by a very famous and pioneering professor, Professor Steve Gleasman, that's UC Santa Cruz. He's considered to be the pioneer of agroecological farming. So he has given the mantra of 5 stages of transition. The first stage is that you keep on increasing the efficiency of the input that you use in farming system. So that means you use kind of vapasa when you do kind of mulching or other things, achadana. So you actually enhance the effectiveness or efficiency of input use. In the next stage, what you do, you actually replace all these things. So you replace the inputs. In the third stage, when these 2 are completed, you redesign the system. You create a kind of integrated farming system or kind of hedgerow that harbors the friendly insects. And these 3 things are mostly taken care of by the formal agricultural research in our universities, or many universities in the world. The most problematic part is the 4th and 5th one, because that entails the engagement of citizen, the engagement of market, because that is often beyond the control of farmers. So at this stage, there are examples, and I will mostly be showing some pictures which are related to this 3rd, 4th and 5th phases, where people actually come forward, the citizens come forward, farmers come together, and they actually creates a countervailing power that can dictate the term in the market. And lastly, there will be the power of advocacy that can change the larger politics that makes the decision making. Next. So transitions in the West, some pictures. Next. So you can easily see that this is a large kind of industrial farm in Arizona where pesticides, herbicides are being sprayed. And the right pictures are mostly, they are actually transitioning towards a more sustainable forms of system. Some of the pictures is taken by me. Some of the pictures have been taken from some other researchers. So these are pictures from California and Cuba. So not this one, but those one, the right part. Next one. But this is the most interesting part, because that can be addressed by research institutions, how to design, how to improve efficiency. But how will you fight with these people? So there are powerful players like Walmart, Costco, and they are selling food at a much cheaper price. But thankfully, there are resistance there. The people are resisting in the form of, you see that there is a slow movement, and you see that how fantastically they are making a mockery of McDonald's. So slow food movement, there are community supported agriculture, farmer co-ops, cooperatives, where the farmers actually come together to form cooperatives in a different way that we see here. There are food hubs that they create a local agricultural system. They procure and distribute food and create a local economy, and that is taken care of by the citizens and the representatives from government. So these are something, and they are now talking about the food sovereignty. It's not about kind of creating enough food. It's about food sovereignty. Next one. But still, this is still David versus Goliath. And indicatively, this photograph, you know that what happened after that. So with that hope that the resistance can be strong enough. Next. So what are the forms of transitions in India? So here are some common pictures. You'll see, since I have used the just transition, which has a kind of strong footing in the energy transition, so that is also largely impacting the agricultural field. And my colleague, Saurabh, Krishnendu, they work fantastic in this line. They account the energetics associated with agriculture, and they will be able to relate very readily that this land preparation, this harvesting, and this transport of food to distant places, they actually consider large amount of emission and loss of energies. And irrigation is another thing, the external inputs being used in the agricultural field. So they actually pose a serious threat to the sustainability of agriculture. Most importantly, this commercial animal culture, that is a big challenge. So there may be a separate talk on that. So they are considered to be the modern day coal. So next one. And these are some agroecological transitions that is happening in West Bengal, in Jharkhand. So you will be able to see that they are redesigning the farms. They are creating multi-stage or multi-stacked farming systems. They are creating their own input. And at the same time, you will see that they have involved people. So in one place, you will see that there are people coming together to form farmer field school. They are learning together about the ecosystem. They have created farmer producer organizations so that they can actually negotiate with the large corporates. They are using alternative sources of energy like solar power to irrigate the fields. Next one. And these are some citizen engagement. And I'm increasingly mentioning these citizen engagement because that is very, very important in today's context. I will come to that at the very last slide. So these are something which is happening in West Bengal. Mart theke rannaghar. So this is a kind of buyer-grower conclave where buyers and growers come together. They celebrate, they sing song, they cook food, and they celebrate the traditional cuisines. This is happening in Kolkata. There are some examples from Tiruvananthapuram, from Punjab. These are some urban agriculture examples for urban agriculture, some community-supported agriculture in the south. And there are two examples which are coming from the government, who has received the government subsidies in Andhra Pradesh and Sikkim. So they are famous stories. But mostly the conceptual as well as practical vacuum still exists in the citizens' engagement in this alternative food movement. So now, how transition happens? So now, science has its own answers, and most of these answers are confined to the first three stages of Glisman's talisman. But you see that all these people have their own meaning of this transformation. So the grower has his own meaning, extension worker has its own interpretation, and the input producers, they actually snub these alternative agricultural systems. And then the food producers, they are seeking for the niche market among the urban elites. But the environmentalists and thankfully some activists, they are still uncompromising. They are fighting their, fighting against these corporate, honestly. And then the policymakers have their targets, but at the same time, at the top of the hierarchy, the narratives are created at the very top. I mean, I shouldn't be talking about that much. So next. So when we have so many meanings, so there should be some takeaway at the end of this presentation. Those takeaways are the principles. Now the principles are not only written like anything. I mean, there are kind of solid analysis, empirical evidences drawn from different parts of the globe. And they have come up with 5 principles. I'll not be explaining each of them. The first one is sufficient, grow only that much which is needed, not more than that. This is not something for making profit. You see, create a regenerative system. That regeneration should not entail human being, should not entail only plants, but also other animals and human beings. Distribution is another issue. Then the commons, so agriculture, land, water, air, these are common properties. Respect that commonness. And the care. Its care is more about a shift from techno-scientific solution and food security to ethical food sovereignty. And the next, focus on more marginalized groups like women and its migrant laborers, kind of things. So the last slide. So I will end here with this message that growing and consuming food is a form of resistance against economic, social, and environmental injustices. Non-veg. Why this is? Because I will request the students, you are the next generation, that so far we have thought agricultural research to be confined within the lab, within the field, even within the extension work, not beyond that. But those who are consuming food, like who are producing the food, they are very much part of the agri-food system. Your choice of food, how you prepare the food, how you eat the food, that is going to send a message back to the root of this ecosystem. So be conscious, be a conscious consumer. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupak sir, for excellent talk. Next, I would request Dr. N.C. Sahu, Head KVK, to speak on importance of soil in the light of World Soil Day.
বলছে যে এটা লাঞ্চে নাকি সার্ভ করা হবে, সেগুলো যাচ্ছে না। Most revered Swami Atmapriyanandaji Maharaj, Swami Shastrogyanandaji Maharaj, Swami Shiva Purnanandaji Maharaj, our most respected Sir Dr. Sudarshanji, Professor P.G. Dhar Chakraborty, Dr. Mrs. Paramita Roy Madam, Professor Tapos Dasgupta sir, our Honorable Dean, all the faculty members and my dear students. So what we see now, we are observing almost every day one or more than one different types of days, and now we are concerned with World Earth Day that was observed on 22nd of this April, and we are organizing this seminar today. This is to raise awareness about the critical challenges our planet is facing, that is the environmental challenges our planet is facing, and we are feeling it now every day. Every day we are recording the record temperature rise. somewhere it has reached 44, 45, and within some years it may rise up to 44, 48, 49. I don't know what will be then. Professor Dhar Chakraborty has painted a beautiful picture of the present scenario of the environmental challenges. Dr. Gautam has nicely delivered one scientific lecture and philosophical lecture by our Dr. Rupak, and I, being a man of soil, I will deal with soil itself. সব কিছু মাটি করে দেবো। As you know that health of soil, quality of soil is a concern of the day. We are all talking of a healthy soil, a quality soil. And if we think of our present situation, I can easily relate the quality of soil or health of our soil with the economy of rural people. Let us take one example of two groups of districts of our state. One is our Jungle Mahal districts, our Purulia, Bankura, Birbhum, West Midnapur, where the condition of soil, the quality of soil, the health of soil is precarious. High degree of weathering, high degree of erosion, and most of the topsoil, because of undulating topography, most of the soils, topsoils, quality soil, those are being washed away from the tarred wide lands. As you know, the upland is known as tarred, then wide, then canali, then bohal, and everything is washed from the tarred wide. Tarred land is the most, the area of tarred land is the maximum in our Jungle Mahal. And topsoil that is being eroded and washed away with the rainwater. Talking about this rain, I fondly remember the example cited by our revered Maharaj, Padodhuli. We in Hindu religion, we regard it as the most, because Padodhuli or dhuli, that is the soil particle, dust particle, that acts as the nucleus of condensation of water, which ultimately comes to us as rain, as the blessings. Without rain, we are, हम लोग अब तड़पते रहे हैं बारिश के लिए. तो what I was talking, that this group of districts, the western districts, the Jungle Mahal districts, and if we consider another group of districts, our district, that is South 24 Parganas, North 24 Parganas, East Midnapur, Bardwan, Howrah, Hooghly. Now let us compare the economic condition of rural people, where it is better. The answer is yes, we are better, we are in better position. But the question is why? This is because the quality of soil, the health of soil is precarious in the red and lateritic soil zones of our state. Only most of the lands are monocropped lands, whereas in case of our soil, in case of our districts, we are growing one by one, more than 2, 3, 4, 5 crops from the same piece of land. So if there is no crop, where from the farmers will get money? So they are poorer and we are somewhat rich. But we are not safe. The organic matter content of each and every soil is decreasing day by day, and as you know, our country is a tropical country, so we are blessed with sunshine, but we are cursed with reducing amount of carbon throughout the country, except the North Indian soils, the hilly soils. So there is a direct relation between the quality of soil, the health of soil, and the economy of rural people. Now, the question is how to restore this deterioration. So we have to use as many or as much quantity of organic matter, the quality organic matter. By hook or by crook, we have to provide. We are now talking about organic farming, natural farming. Okay, good. But I am not a proponent, being a man of soil, I am not proponent of organic farming or natural farming, because through natural farming and organic farming, we can't feed our ever increasing population throughout the country. It is almost 1.4 billion population now. But it is true that quality of soil has to be improved. That is possible only through application of huge quantity of organic manure, quality organic manure in the soil. So by hook and by hook or by crook, we have to improve the quantity and quality of organic matter used in soil. But what is the picture? The main source of organic matter, that is the cow dung. The population of cow is going down day by day. So the question of supplying quality and quantity organic manure is challenged. Wherefrom we will provide this required quantity of organic manure. But soil will not listen to us. Its quality has to be restored, its quality has to be improved for our sustenance. So we have to think of alternative organic matter supplying ways and means, because we have to apply. So there are different alternative means. In our postgraduate studies we have learnt it, and during our classes I teach our students about different processes, different methods of increasing organic matter in our soil. Now the challenges are terrific, but the greatest threat to our planet is nothing but the belief that someone else will save it, not me. All other will save our nature, but not myself. I have no responsibility towards nature. I have the right to live, but I have no responsibility. Now this year's theme of our World Planet Day is planet versus plastic. World? Okay. Now let us look at the plastic production scenario throughout the world. The mass production of plastic started in 1950s, and you will be astonished that in 1950s the production of plastic was only to the tune of 1.5 million tons per year, and in 2019 the production of plastic rose to 374.8 million ton per year, from 1.5 million ton per year in the 1950s to 374.8 million ton plastic per year in 2019. Thanks to our COVID pandemic, during 2020 the production was plateaued down. It was only about 375, that is 2019 it was 374.8, and in 20 it was 375.5. But after that plateau, in 2022 it became 390.7 million ton per year. And if as per projection, if this trend continues, then in 2040 the net, that is production of plastic, will be to the tune of 940 million tons per year. So 1.5 million ton per year to 940 million tons per year. And so far as India picture is that India generates about 26,000 tons of plastic annually. No, every day. 26,000 tons of plastic waste every day. And 1/3 of these plastic wastes end up in soils or in the sweet waters. And most of these plastics disintegrate to smaller particle of microplastics less than 5 millimeter, but it again disintegrates to nanoparticle size of plastics less than 0.1 micrometer. Now, in this way, millions of tons of plastic, those are being dumped into our soil. Media attention, public attention, those have not been drawn to the plastic accumulation swirling in the seawater. But there is a big threat to the animals, to the plants, to the humans in the land. And in so far as plastic pollution in soil is concerned, this is precarious. These microplastics, these nanoplastics and other things, those are dumped in soil and they have direct effect on the soil physical, chemical and biological properties. Soil structure, it will change. Bulk density will be changed. Water holding capacity of soil will be reduced. Movement of water through the soil pores will be reduced because it will block the pores. So, there is no hope from the use of plastic in our soil. So, we have to be cautious, we have to be careful. Let us save our soil for ourselves only, not for others, for ourselves, for me. Let us save our soil, let us improve our soil, let us reduce plastic production and plastic use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, next, I would request Dr. Paramita Roy to address keynote on biospheric egalitarianism, Prithvi Shukta and Swami Vivekananda's thoughts. Please, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My respectful pranams to the monks, the dignitaries, the teachers present here, and my best wishes to all dear students. The topic for today's talk is biospheric egalitarianism, Prithvi Sukta and Swami Vivekananda's thoughts. We first have to understand what actually biospheric egalitarianism means. It talks about the inherent worth. Next slide. It talks about the inherent worth of all life forms, irrespective of humans and other beings. Now, this requires for us a kind of consciousness in order to value life in itself. It teaches mankind how exactly are we to live with minimum rather than maximum impact on other species and, of course, for the earth in entirety. This has been beautifully explained. This concept, or the main theme of biospheric egalitarianism, has been beautifully captured in the words of Bill Deville and George Sessions in his book called Deep Ecology. They say, all things in the biosphere have an equal right to live and blossom and to reach their own forms of unfolding and self-realization within the larger self-realization. This basic intuition is that all organisms and entities in the ecosphere as parts of interrelated whole are equal in intrinsic worth. This is important for us to understand the intrinsic worth of other living creatures apart from the instrumental value, using them for our own benefits. Now, as we see that it is not only humans that are there on this planet, life is extremely diverse, complex on this planet, and we need to have this consciousness in order to appreciate this dynamics of life. So, taking the study of life, next slide please. Understanding or studying life, it also brings into consideration or the study of environmental ethics and, of course, justice into its domain, because life and environment are never separated. They are inextricably related. So when we talk about this environmental justice, we actually find that there are 4 forms of environmental justice being talked of. The first is concerned with the inequitable distribution of environmental. Next slide. The first, yes, this one. No, this one. So the first includes inequitable distribution of environmental disaster on the vulnerable population due to environmental hazards. The second is unequal exposure of the developed and developing countries to environmental hazards. The third is intergenerational justice, which is justice between present and future generation. Interestingly, there is the incorporation of biospheric egalitarianism in the topic of discussion of environmental justice, and it forms the 4th kind of environmental justice. It is deeply thought now that we have to pay respect to other life forms. But it is also true that valuing other life forms or bringing other life forms into the domain of environmental justice would definitely mean certain revision of justice policies. But as I've mentioned here, Helena Kopnina, she has mentioned in one of her important articles that she's optimistic of this shift in justice policies, taking precedence of how slavery has become intolerable, and in the same pattern, she's optimistic that subordination of other species would also become intolerable in some day or the other. Next slide, please. Now, when we are talking about biospheric egalitarianism, that valuing life, it is not, it is my life, I value my life. It is life in self that has to have that concern. You have to pay attention to that life that has the capacity to grow. Paul Taylor says everyone has goal, it has a telos, and we have to respect that. So this requires on our part a kind of spiritual maturity and growth in order to appreciate biospheric egalitarianism. Now, when we talk about spiritual maturity and growth, a consciousness different from the mainstream thinking, that domination of nature, human superiority over other species. So this is a kind of shift from the traditional or mainstream thinking. So this requires a different kind of person in me, a radical transformation. So when we talk about this, the name that comes to our mind is of Arnes. In his Deep Ecology, he beautifully mentions, or it is being considered, that he advocates biospheric egalitarianism, giving worth to all life forms. Because deep ecology talks about a relational total field image which requires on our part the cultivation of ecological consciousness, philosophical and spiritual approach to life as a whole, taking everything in the gamut of existence, the unity of life, plants, animals, nature in entirety. So this can really happen when we can come out, as Swamiji says, from our narrowness, selfishness and littleness. This is also being understood. This is also captured in the words of Bill, Devil and Sessions when they say that we have to come out of this socially programmed sense of the narrow self in order to understand and appreciate these diverse life forms on earth. So, next slide, please. So, such spiritual maturity and growth that I'm talking about, one such, I would like to share one such mystical experience of a biocentrist. His name is Albert Schweitzer. He explains that on his travel on the barge on the upriver in Africa, he was actually moving, and then on the sandbank to his left, he found that 4 hippopotamuses were plodding just on the same direction. Immediately, there was a kind of a flash in him with a phrase called reverence for life. He says that he has never come across this particular phrase, but he was very much overwhelmed because that particular phrase which dawned upon his mind had given him solution to many of the problems that were troubling him for a long time. He could understand that this, how we are placed in the larger cosmos. So this is how he actually, it requires a kind of introspection, self-introspection in order to appreciate this diversity. And then he very beautifully explains, next slide please, that what exactly is to be ethical. He says that a man can be labeled as ethical only when life as such is sacred for him, that of plants, animals, and that of his fellow men, and when he devotes helpfully to all life that is in need of help. Now the question arises, now how exactly, or what is that which helps me to be ethical? This is the sensitivity, the subtle feeling that, as Schweitzer says, I am life that wants to live in the midst of other life that wants to live. So this has been very beautifully captured in his own mystical experience of Albert Schweitzer. Next slide. So we see that when he uses this particular phrase called reverence for life, it is just not just a term. It encompasses diverse existence. It embraces all. It has the capacity to subsume everything. So this power of subsuming everything, taking everything in the bosom, is also explained by Schweitzer as just as white light consists of colored rays, so reverence for life contains all components of ethics, love, kindliness, sympathy, empathy, peacefulness, powers to forgive. So this power of subsuming capacity, next slide. This we actually find in the Prithvi Sukta. How? Because here this Prithvi Sukta forms actually the 12th chapter of the Atharva Veda Samhita, and there are 63 mantras or verses which are dedicated to Mother Earth. Wonderful composition by the Vedic rishis, meditating on the human existence of this crust. This multifaceted aspect of the earth's crust is beautifully portrayed in these two hymns. It includes diverse lofty mountains, snow-clad mountains, forest, wilderness, everything she incorporates in her bosom. Next slide. Now, when we talk about life, does the earth include only human life? No, it includes everything. It's a celebration of life when we go through the Prithvi Sukta. These two mantras that we find here in the Prithvi Sukta is showing that how there are variety of life forms on the earth crust, right from the majestic, the roaring lions to the tiny particles, tiny microbes that are also surviving on the earth's crust. And the interesting point is that they all survive with their own right. They have their own intrinsic worth. It's not that humans will consider their instrumental value. They have their own inherent capacity to survive. Then, so this is what is, next slide. So this consideration of the inherent worth of all life forms is considered by the famous biocentrist Paul Taylor to be the ultimate moral attitude. This ultimate moral attitude, as we also find in the mystical experience of Albert Schweitzer, considering life as a whole to be sacred, and therefore we have to take care of life as a whole. It is not my life or your life. Life itself is precious. Now the next slide. Now the question that crops up in our mind is, how does Prithvi Sukta has such a subsuming power to take everything in its bosom? Because the analogy that we find in the Prithvi Sukta is that of the mother and the child. The mother is taking care of all her child. She does not discriminate between the naughty or the very studious. Everyone is same to her. And as we find in the mantra, Mata Bhumi Putra Aham Prithviya. So this is how the Vedic rishis have looked upon earth. She's not the dead matter. She's vibrating with life. So the mother is housing every diverse elements with same amount of sympathy, care, love, compassion, endurance. So this brings out this maternal instinct that is very important, which is needed for solidarity on earth. That is called the differences that we make. This is the unifying principle which is being portrayed or highlighted through the Prithvi Sukta by addressing earth as the mother, by bringing out her maternal instinct. As we also find, this has been the tradition, Indian tradition, that women are given great esteem, because Swamiji also says that women are the divine embodiments of mother. So this is what our Indian tradition is, and now it is also considered by the deep ecologists that this feminine quality is needed for us to be guided in the practice of creative direction. So it is not like sloganizing or posturing, but it is caring, personal, caring, individual action which is needed. And that can truly happen when feminine quality is held in great esteem. So the next point, next slide please. So we see that earth is considered as a sacred place for worship and aspiration of humankind, for practice of restraint and responsibility. Now this is important. As the mother is bestowing, she's giving boundless love to her children, but she is also vigilant of her activities. So children in turn also have certain responsibilities towards their mother. So this is how much we should take from nature, how much actually where is the line of control? We should know that. Beyond that, if we go, we are hurting our mother. So this is the feeling that the Vedic rishis have brought out through their hymns of the Prithvi Sukta. And it is through the spiritual orientation can we actually bring everything, this multifaceted, this diversity into oneness. this oneness can be brought with this idea of this maternal instinct as being portrayed in the Prithvi Sukta. Next slide. So we see that earth has been depicted as a symbol of cultural consciousness of human race. As we said, that earth is the mother, and children also in turn have their responsibilities towards their mother. So we see that the Vedic rishis, through these various hymns to the Mother Earth, have actually roused some deeper questions, much like those raised by the deep ecologists. And it is found that we are somewhere to move from scientific analysis to much more wider realm as in wisdom. So this something deeper, where is this something deeper hidden? It is considered again by the deep ecologists that something deep is, next slide, something deep is religious. There is a religious component in when we investigate something deep and not something superficial, and only something deep in its quality can have that capacity to cure, as Swamiji talks about radical reform, root and branch reform, going to the root of the matter and taking out the malady from it. So there is a religious component in deep ecology, and those people who have done most to make societies aware of the destructive way in which we live in relations to the natural settings have had such religious feelings. I would like to share, next slide, I would like to share this life of such a great saint whose life in fact was God intoxicated. He used to look at nature as manifesting God's glory in all its form. One such life is of Saint Francis Assisi, who was called the patron saint of ecology. He was declared on 29th November 1979 by Pope Paul II, and he issued a papal bull to declare Saint Francis Assisi the patron saint of ecology, because he deserves to be called so. And we can find the love for nature, this boundless love for nature, emanating from his heart in his beautiful poem, next, Canticle of Creatures. I do not read out this poem due to time constraint, but this is a marvelous poem, and this depicts how he adores nature as it is manifesting God's glory in all its forms. Now, if we look at Swamiji's idea, this is exactly what is needed. As when we see in Sri Ramakrishna's life, when he was in the time of his sadhana period, his heart was surging. Tapasyanandaji writes that his heart was surging like a Buddha, because he wanted to bless all, not to deprive one from that blessing. So this capacity of boundless love is what is loving the Shamashti. And this Swamiji explains beautifully that if you go on merely loving one person after another, you may go on loving them so for an infinite length of time without being in the least able to love the world as a whole. So, but he is also optimist in the sense that we are knowingly or unknowingly moving from the particular to the general. And this is also captured in this utterance of Swamiji, how actually we are moving from particular to still general to the more general, and we move to the highest where everything is incorporated. So actually that is loving in the true sense, loving the Shamashti, that is the universal, which is as it were the one unity in which are to be found millions and millions of smaller unities. So ultimately we find that all that the divide that we are making between us and the rest of the world are all artificial construct of the mind. In fact, this has also been considered by famous Warwick Fox, is a important renowned philosopher. He says that we are making this artificial divide. We are making this fabrication. It is never there in the nature. Nature does not divide. It is all we humans are making all this divide. And it was also the thinkers of our ancient India, they also considered that this idea of separateness is erroneous, whatever we are, because it is oneness in existence. So how can we talk of separateness? This is always an artificial construct of the mind. So the next question is, next, where are we heading towards? Now, this picture is not that gloomy. Next slide, please. So we see that the different movements in the form of animal liberation, veganism that we are doing, or in fact, when Paul Taylor says, do trees have standing? So these are all efforts on our part to come out of our narrow cocoon-like existence in order to think much more, to place ourselves in larger web of things, to place ourselves in the cosmos. Instead of man ruling nature, we have to understand that man is just a component in nature. So the task then for us is, next slide, as again Bill Devil and George Sessions says in his Deep Ecology, is the realization of self in self, where this self with a capital S, it stands for organic wholeness, where the phrase one includes not only me, an individual human, but all humans, whales, grizzly bears, whole rainforest ecosystem, mountains and rivers, the tiniest microbes in the soil, and so on. So this is exactly what the message is given by Swami Vivekananda for the modern age. He says it is the Atman, and in it are the different dimensions. Some are more expressed, some are less. The difference is in expression, and there is no effect in the Atman. Once we understand that in essence we are all, we would perhaps get the rationale for valuing the inherent worth of all life forms and earth in entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a great speech and much appreciated. Next, Dr. Sudarshan, our chief guest of this program. Dr. Sudarshan is an Indian social worker and tribal rights activist. He is well known for his contribution to the upliftment of the forest dwelling in the Karnataka. He is also recipient of the prestigious Light Livelihood Award and Padma Shri. Sir, the stage is yours.
Most revered Atmapriyanji Maharaj, Shivapurnanji Maharaj, and all the distinguished people here. I don't want to be in the midst of the wonderful meal which we saw on the photograph and between you, but I would like to share very briefly. Yeah. So, first of all, I want to say I lived when I was just joined medical college, and I had the unique opportunity of a person who had just started his spiritual life, but at the age of 12, he felt this oneness with the universal life and lived whatever we are talking about, lived his life as a true scientist. And the Saint Francis of Assisi is there in Belur Math now today living, and he led such a life. At the age of 12, he went and sat on the hillock. He had a wonderful vision of the oneness of life, and also the question, what is life? And the love for knowledge, the quest for knowledge. And that question made him study science, and he didn't find the answer for what is life. Then he discovered that spirituality can give an answer to that, and he ultimately discovered that it is consciousness which can give, we can understand what is life. So I am very inspired, and what I want to say is, for understanding Mother Earth, we don't need left brain, we need right brain. Forget the left brain. The cognitive faculty can never understand Mother Earth. We can understand the knowledge, but we need the right brain, the heart, through heart only we can establish harmony with the nature and feel oneness for that. And that motivated from the heart, from the dhi, I think we can establish harmony with nature. Also, I'm very fond of this microcosm, the Taittiriya Upanishads, various Annamaya, Pranamaya, the Vyashti and Samashti idea. And this oneness of life, I myself suddenly, while meditating, I found this. I study and meditate on the Big Bang and the evolution of the whole cosmos. And I found my copper and iron suddenly started remembering that where did this copper and iron micronutrients in my body came from? Of course, Mother Earth came from Sun, and Sun came from the earliest, the earlier the stars were only hydrogen and helium. So they wanted to manufacture the higher periodical table atoms. So they blew up the stars, and that's the supernova. So my copper and iron comes from my molecules. Remember that I am from the supernova. I am from the stardust. So this is truth. Actually, I don't know. It may be an illusion from a psychological perspective, but I genuinely feel that I am one with the physical universe. Similarly, life. The correct word is prana, and I don't think we have defined life in English properly. So I think the prana concept as something which evolves and there's something unique things which attributes to the particular molecules in a particular form. Suddenly something emerges, a second level, that's the prana. And the physical prana, we need to understand more about that. And I feel oneness of life. First of all, I didn't know swimming. Now I swim every day and cross the Kaveri river, and I learned swimming at the age of 55. I literally feel oneness with Kaveri river and Ganga here. You can really feel oneness with the physical universe also, with water, with air, with the stardust. Similarly, the life also is very precious. The animal, the plant life and the animal life, all of them form one unique, and of course, ultimately the consciousness. So my own understanding of One Health came as a dire existential need. I used to do mobile work in tribal areas. I used to go and in the interior, and then I used to provide them treatment for human health. But they also, after I treated the human being, they would bring a cattle and say, this has a problem, can you treat this? So I was forced to learn animal health also. And then again, they would bring a plant and show, can you give a solution for that? So that's when I felt I cannot be just, especially working in a tribal interior area, I can't restrict myself to one particular. And then, of course, the pollution, that is much more not in the tribal areas, but in the cities. The environmental health also very important. The quality of air, the quality of the soil, which we have been talking about, all of them, the water, drinking water. Even in tribal areas, the water is still a problem. In BR Hills, the coffee estate there pollutes the water sources. So we need to have good understanding. So the environmental health, the plant health, animal health, and human health, they are all very much interlinked. We cannot separate. And this wonderful concept of One Health, which has been instituted in our institute, I'm very delighted about that. And that's the future of for the world. If you want to save the earth, this concept of One Health should happen, which are complementary to each other. We only look from a human point of view, the animal health and the plant health and the soil health. But I think good soil health, good animal health is equally important for human health. So that has to be proved, and that needs to be done. So we need to have, ultimately, I want to say that this integral vision is very important. The integral vision of Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji, which came into being. When I say integral vision, Jagat Mithya is not integral vision. Jagat Satya and the integral vision of everything is sacred. The secular and sacred disappears. A life form is also sacred. every life form, every atom, every molecule, there is conscious, there is Brahman everywhere. So the manifest Brahman is also very important. That's the integral vision. Only with through integral vision we can bring in all this and implement it, and not the typical style that everything is I'm not the body, neti neti is fine, but we have to ultimately say iti iti, everything is. That is Sri Ramakrishna's contribution. Only through integral vision of the world we can have this unique concept of one health, and the Mother Earth, the environment, everything becomes meaningful, and we can be in tune with that. Thank you very much. And
Thank you, sir. To enlighten our audiences with your experiences on One Health initiative. Next, it is the time to launch our e-magazine, our quarterly e-magazine, that is Mother Earth. And this is volume 2, issue 1. And for that, I would request our Pro-Chancellor, Swami Atmapriyanandaji Maharaj, to launch our e-magazine. এখান থেকে একটা ক্লিক করতে হবে এখানে এখানে ওপেন করুন আপনার নিচে স্ক্রিন টাইম লঞ্চ ডি জার্নাল যেখানে লেখা আছে লঞ্চ ডি জার্নাল হ্যাঁ লঞ্চ ডি জার্নাল লঞ্চ ডি জার্নাল মহারাজ করে এখানে হ্যাঁ ওখানে ক্লিক করলে খুলবে এসে গেছে কেমন ইয়েস
So this journal has a total about 38 articles and there are 38 different planetary issues about the future of the earth in this journal. I think contributed by our students, by our alumni and by our faculty. So this sums up the entire global crisis regarding planet Earth. So this is available in our website. Please have a look at it. Now we have felt today that these environmental issues are not limited within the confines of the EDM. It concerns all other departments. So from the next issue onwards, we have decided that we will be opening it up to the other departments also. So the students and faculty of other departments, they are also welcome to contribute to our article next issue on the occasion of the World Environment Day, where hopefully we will be also organizing a seminar. The issue is planet versus plastics. We will be identifying about 50 issues and we will be opening it up to our students for their contribution. In addition to these 50 other issues related to the plastics pollution will also be open to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your brief description on our e-magazine, Mother Earth. I would again request Swami Atmapriyanandaji Maharaj for presidential address.
Om Jau Shanti Antarikshagam Shanti Prithvi Shanti Apa Shanti ओषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिः विश्वे देवाः शान्तिः सर्वं शान्तिः ब्रह्म शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेधि ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. May there be peace on the heavens, may peace reign on the earth, may there be peace in the water bodies, in the rivers and the oceans, may there be peace in the forests and the plantation, may there be peace in all the elements of nature, may there be peace everywhere, and the Supreme Brahman, which is the source of peace, pervade everywhere. Om, peace, peace, peace. So we are just concluding the E-food which was offered to us just now by Rupak. We'll have physical food. Everything is E except food. We talk about telemedicine, E-food, etc. Suppose you offer this E-food to people, people will still feel hungry. Why I say this is because physical is also equally important. This is what Dr. Sudarshan was hinting just now. It is not about only spirituality and high-handed samadhi and so on. You have to be conscious at the ground level, at the physical level. He was mentioning Taittiriya Upanishad. That is one of the most remarkable Upanishads, which speaks about 5 layers of human existence at the individual level as well as at the cosmic level. Vyashti and Samashti, microcosmic and macrocosmic, starting from the physical, Annamaya, Pranamaya, the vital, Manomaya, the mental, Vijnanamaya, the intuitive, intellectual, and Anandamaya, the blissful. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, these have been called koshas in Advaita Vedanta, but as Swami Bhajananandaji, our revered Vice President who has been mentoring most of us in philosophy and spirituality, always used to emphasize that the original text in the Taittiriya Upanishad does not use the word kosha anywhere. It says Annamaya Atma, Pranamaya Atma, Manomaya Atma, Vijnanamaya Atma, Anandamaya Atma. So he has been waiting till people did not hear. Thank you. I have been attending conferences here in this hall. Every time there is a problem with the mic. It's not only here. When I was in Paris for an international conference, the first thing the mic man said, ko, 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 ko. So it is universal. So individual and collective. I have never seen at any of the conferences the mic functioned properly since the beginning. This is a part of life. If everything goes well, life will be so uninteresting. So something should go wrong somewhere. As a matter, just a digression, there are 3 laws called the Murphy's laws. Murphy was a great engineer and he discovered these laws based on second law of thermodynamics. Most of you will know this. If you don't know, find out from the teachers. First law says, everything takes more time than you thought it would. We thought we'll begin at 10:45, 10:50, then it's okay, it's going on. Everything takes more time than you thought it would. Second law says, if anything can go wrong, it will at the wrong moment. When just in the middle of a street tire will burst, something will go wrong. The third law says, if everything is going well, something will go wrong soon. There is another law called Smith's law. Smith's law is just one-liner. Murphy was an optimist. If this is optimism, what is pessimism? So we should know how to take life with all its chaos and confusions and be at peace and happiness. Why India is still so strong, in spite of all the confusion that is going on everywhere, there's a smile on every lip, and we are not very unhappy.
unlike people who have everything in the world all the time crying. That is because we accept that chaos is a part of cosmos. Chaos and cosmos are two manifestations of the same reality, and therefore, the brand song of Ramakrishna Order, Ramakrishna Missioner, মুখ্য গান আছে ঠাকুর খুব গাইতেন এবং শ্রী শ্রী মা শারদার খুব প্রিয় গান ছিল, জানো? খেপার হাট বাজার মাতোদের খেপার হাট বাজার, সব আছে খেপার হাট বাজার, যে যার মতো যা খুশি করে যাচ্ছে। There is an important idea in science which is developing now. Order out of chaos. There is a famous book by Prigozhin, is a Nobel laureate. Order out of chaos. He says order emerges from chaos only. Don't say chaos is something bad. As Gautam was quoting, Gautam Rupa was quoting, I think Sahu said, I always praise the dust. Oh, it's so dusty. Ki noda sarvatra eta eto dhulo, don't criticize dhulo. Bhagavaner pada dhulo niye to amra beche achi. Dhulo, the dust particle, is the nucleus which provides the nucleus for supersaturated water to condense the small drops, and you have the rains. ধুলো যদি না থাকতো বৃষ্টি হবে না, বৃষ্টি না হলে দুদিনে আমার কাছে শেষ হয়ে যেতাম। সেই জন্য ভগবানের পদধূলি বলেছে, পদধূলি ইজ ইম্পর্টেন্ট। দে ডোন্ট সে ভগবানের অন্য কিছু বলতে, পদধূলি। কৃপয়া তৎ পঙ্কজ ধূলি সদৃশম বিচিন্তয়া, Mahaprabhu says. So now the idea, there is an integral structure behind the whole thing, starting from the Annamaya, the physical, up to the most spiritual, Anandamaya and beyond. It is one continuum. The idea of continuum was introduced, as you know, by Albert Einstein. Space and time was considered completely separate. Then Einstein came and said, in the special theory of relativity, space and time are not two different things. There is a space-time continuum. Later on, 10 years later, 1915, he came up with the general theory of relativity, in which he said matter is also a part of space-time. Once Einstein was asked, can you define relativity or describe it in just a few sentences? He thought for a while and said, earlier Newtonian classical physics said, all the matter in the universe vanishes. Space and time alone will remain. The idea was a container-contained relationship. Space and time are the container in which matter is contained. He said, no. If all the matter in the universe vanishes, space and time will also vanish with them. Which means it is not only space-time continuum as in the special theory. She is feeling hungry. Don't eat your nails. That's why I wanted to finish early. Because people are so hungry, they're eating their fingers. No, don't worry. I always tell this to students, because unconsciously they keep doing this. Nails are not to be eaten, but kept. Space and time form a continuum, and matter together, space, time, matter form a continuum. This is Einstein's general theory of relativity, space, time, matter continuum. Long ago in Vedanta, our ancient treatises found out it is space, time, matter, consciousness continuum. Consciousness is something which does not emerge from matter, or matter emerges from consciousness. There is a huge debate in philosophy, but Sri Ramakrishna, as Sudarshan pointed out, said it's one integral whole. Space, time, matter, prana, consciousness form one continuum. So you can't separate one from the other. This is the beauty of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which says from the Annamaya to Anandamaya, there is one continuum. The beautiful statement there in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the original, Tena Isha Purnaha. Every one of them is filled by the other, which means there can't be any hiatus, gap between matter, life, and consciousness. It's one continuum. Same consciousness can express itself as matter, it can express itself as life, it can express itself as consciousness or Chaitanya. Now the extreme Advaitists will say consciousness has pervaded everything, has manifested as matter. Why not put the reverse thing? If consciousness can manifest as matter and life, life itself can manifest as matter and consciousness. If it is one whole, why do you pick out one and that pervades everything? This is what Advaita did. So Ramakrishna Vivekananda Advaita says, it is one continuous whole, a continuum without any division, without any possibility of a hatred between these two, without any possibility of they being divided into one or the other. You can't pick one and reject the other. As Sudarshan just now said, the consciousness alone is true. Brahma Satyam. What about this Jagat? Jagat is Mithya. That means it is not ultimately real, temporarily appears to be real, ultimately the one alone is true, which is supreme. Why not say the other way about matter alone is real, consciousness comes from matter. These are the empirical scientists have said this. The Ramakrishna Vivekananda come and say, you don't say this is real and that is not real. There is one reality which is manifesting in such so many levels of existence. So Swami Tapasyan used to say, Brahmasatyam Jagannathya is a paradigm which is introduced by Advaita, Vedanta and Shankara. But what Ramakrishna Vivekananda said, Brahma Nityam and Jagat is Leela. Instead of Satya and Nitya, they replaced it by Nitya and Leela. Leela means the entire universe is a play of God. What Bhagavan Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is a vibhuti of God. The earth is a great vibhuti of God. The sun is a great vibhuti of God. Nature is one of the greatest wonders of God, the vibhuti of God. So what does it mean in the modern language? He says Himalayas. Among the great mountains I am the Himalayas. Among all the various water bodies I am the ocean. In the modern language you say God has signed there in the Himalayas, I am here, Krishna. In the ocean, I am here, Sri Krishna. So whatever you see, God has signed it and say, I am here. That means I am here, everywhere, but He is nowhere. Nowhere because if you go beyond names and forms, He appears to be nowhere because He pervades everything. He is interpenetrating, the word used in the Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Otaprota. Interestingly, Otaprota is very difficult to translate into English or any other language. In Bengali, it is very easy to translate it as Otaprota is translated as Otaprota. Because it's very easy to put the same words there. Otaprota means interpenetrating, informing, and completely overwhelmed, enveloping, and so on. So it is there everywhere. The same supreme power, supreme reality is present everywhere. Only the manifestation happens because of Shakti, or the power of God, or the power of Brahman. And Shakti and Brahman are identical, are non-different. It's a great philosophical basis of Ramakrishna Vivekananda philosophy, which manifests all this action. So this particular, the philosophical underpinning, which is beautifully narrated by Dr. Paramita Roy, she is a philosopher, is that there is one single entity which is manifesting as all this. And it can remain without manifestation also. Manifestation is not compulsory. You can't compel God. Oh, God, manifest as this. Is that I can manifest if you like. I may remain without manifestation also. He is both manifest and unmanifest, both Vyakta and Avyakta, both Nirguna and Saguna, Niranjana, Nararupathara, as Swami Vivekananda said in the great Aratrika hymn. And Sri Ramakrishna said, and it can be beyond everything also. The Nishakar, তেনি নিরাকার, সাকার নিরাকার পারে আরো কত কি, which means you cannot put any limit on the infinity of God. If you don't like the word God, you can substitute it with nature or Prakriti or whatever, which is what the great poets like Rabindranath did. So this idea of oneness should come to us. Advaita means oneness. Unfortunately, Advaita Anubhuti, Advaita Vedanta has been translated in actual life as Advaita Vada, a philosophy or a school of Advaita, and the schools are fighting with each other. The actual realization of Advaita doesn't fight with anything because we feel oneness. Even your own body. This is Annamaya body. And the Pranamaya is responsible for my speech. I'm speaking, I'm eating, I'm digesting, is Pranamaya. I think Manomaya. So some higher intuition, I'm able to grasp certain truths. Vijnanamaya. And I go beyond that also. The same person is endowed with Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. Similarly, the cosmic person also can manifest in ever so many forms, ever so many ways, and every one of them is equally important and sacred. Not that this is more sacred than this. Each is equally sacred because we don't look at the world except through the human eye. Sometimes we say, oh, poor dogs and cats, they cannot communicate, so we should take care of them. How do you know they can't communicate? They'll be communicating in their own language, and they'll say, what are these people doing, having seminars and discussing all this, waste of time. The dogs may be saying this, and they're correct. So they have their own language, they have their ways of expression. Now we have realized, thanks to experiments, scientific experiments by Jagadish Chandra Bose and so on, even plants, so-called inanimate beings also have sensations. So the difference between animate and inanimate, living and the non-living, spiritual and sacred, has to go because it is already gone. There is nothing called this and that. So everything is subsumed, as Paramita said, in one undivided supreme wholeness in which we find ourselves. At the same time, there are divisions, there are differences. You call them apparent if you like, or call them real but not ultimately real, whatever language you use. So don't respect diversity. Respect for life is being talked about. We in India celebrate diversity. Let there be joy. 100,000 flowers are blooming every day. 100,000 birds are chirping. I always used to think, the cuckoo where we live, there are cuckoos and crow. Cock, it's like so harsh. But the cuckoo is coo, coo, coo. You feel so charmed. But the crow is not ashamed. Cock bhavche na, kukur samne kinda ami korbo, loke ki bolbe. It's happily, because this is the talent God has given me, I will happily chirp. So one of my teachers wrote, when I passed class 12, I said, please write something for me. She wrote, express whatever talents God has given you freely. The woods would be silent if no bird sings except those that sing best. You sing whatever God has given you. The crow is not afraid to caw before the cuckoo. But why is man afraid? Man wants to show that he is superior. There is no question of superiority, inferiority in nature. Everything is beautiful. This corona, COVID-19 virus, which scientists do not know what is the virus. It is a non-living object, comes to life and it comes into contact with life. And it multiplies so rapidly. This little fellow, which is the tiniest of the tiniest of the tiniest, gave terrible slaps on all the Nobel laureates and scientists. For 3 years they are crying. So this is the power of a small virus. How much more power for the human beings who have the brains, who have the heart, to contribute to the peace and well-being and goodness of the world rather than quarreling. The world is so full of strife. Russia and Ukraine fighting and Palestine and Israel fighting. And we are all sucked into this warfare only because, what is the one reason for this? Human egoism. Everybody is egoist. I shall conquer. I shall become supreme. Nobody is supreme except the Supreme Lord, if you believe in one. And he doesn't fight anybody. So why do you fight? Even those who do not believe in God, God is willing to bless them. Suppose you say, "Oh Lord, don't digest his food. This fellow doesn't believe in you." Just because you don't believe in God, you mean to say God will not digest your food? Let him not believe in me. He is my child. I have to do it for him. So that kind of attitude, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we glibly talk about it. That can be practiced. That can be put into practice in daily life. And this has been practiced millennia by thousands of people in India. And that has to be revived based on the principles of science and philosophy and practiced in everyday life, for which Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda came. I'm very happy to share these thoughts with you. Now we'll have real food rather than e-food. Thank you.
Many thanks, Maharaj. So this is our lunch break now. Shall we leave for lunch now, Maharaj?
We're trying to change the mics just before lunch. তো একটা অ্যানাউন্সমেন্ট আছে, তোমরা খেয়ে দিয়ে তাড়াতাড়ি চলে এসো। 2টো থেকে 2:30 কার্তিক সত্যনারায়ণন বলে সিইও একজন আছেন, ওয়াইল্ড লাইফ SOS তার সিইও, অসাধারণ কাজ করেন উনি সারা ভারতবর্ষে এবং বিদেশেও আছেন। তিনি নিজে আসবেন বলেছেন। 2টো সময় দিয়েছি, আনফর্চুনেটলি আমরা দেরি করে ফেললাম। তিনি এসে নিজে তোমাদের সঙ্গে ইন্টারাক্ট করতে চাইছেন। আমরা ফিজিক্যালি ডাকছিলাম, উনি আসতে পারেননি। তোমরা চট করে খেয়ে চলে এসো। নিরামিষ বলেছি, সেই জন্য বেশি সময় লাগার কথা নেই তোমাদের। মাছের কাঁটা বাঁচতে সময় লাগে না। তোমরা 2:05 চলে এসো। তার আগে মাইকেল জ্যাকসনের আর্থ সংটা আমরা কিন্তু প্লে করবো, জানো তো? তোমরা সাহেবদের সাং না হলে তো আসবে না, সেই জন্য সাহেবদের একটু রাখলাম আমরা। 2:05 আগে চলে আসবে প্লিজ, বিকজ হি ওয়ান্টস টু ইন্টারাক্ট উইথ ইউ। থ্যাংক ইউ।